Hi, my name is Kartar Singh Bring. I am Head of Chaplaincy at the University Hospitals of Leicester and Leicestershire Partnership Trust. I'm born and bred in Leicester, have journeyed my way into chaplaincy for over 10 years, and it's been a really transformative and moving journey, not only through my work, but also I think in terms of the impact that all of those patient encounters have had on me in my formation and brought me to where I am today. Having grown up in a deeply spiritual family, very much connected to the wider community, the Sikh community, but also interfaith community, respect and understanding of all faiths and beliefs, but also how we can live well together. And all of those things have played a part in I would say, my journey, but also it's a sense of calling, because I think chaplaincy isn't just a job, it's a vocation, it's something that you're called to, it's a part of who you are. And honestly, having joined the chaplaincy profession, I've not looked back. It's definitely been the most valuable, worthwhile journey that I feel that I could have taken in this life. So growing up, my family was deeply spiritual and faithful, and trained most of my life thinking I would have a career in the legal field. But at one point in my life, I think I asked myself the question, well, if I'm sitting on my deathbed, looking back at a life that I've lived, what do I want to see in that life? And a big part of that was serving humanity and serving others and serving the Almighty. And therefore, if I'm going to trade off my minutes and hours doing something, as any career or profession is, you spend most of your day and for many years of your life in, well, I'd rather spend it doing something that I found aligned with my values, but also was a different way of giving back to society and serving the Almighty, serving Waheguru. There are many ways in which I support patients or people who have come into the hospital and have experienced either a diagnosis of cancer or going through the journey of chemotherapy or radiotherapy. And honestly, the first place to begin is treating them as an individual, recognising the deep humanity that exists within them, but also coming alongside them, recognising that in all the spectrum of identities that people have, for many, their faith and belief is hugely important. And therefore I, as a hospital chaplain, honour their unique identity, their cultural and religious background in all that I do, recognising that sometimes there is a great gap between what I might offer as a Sikh myself, but also recognising that there is many things that we share as a professional chaplain, being alongside people. And so there's the joy of being part of a team means that you can reach out to colleagues of different faiths and beliefs who are able to assist and support in those moments. But I would say it begins with active listening, being alongside people, giving them space to open up and share about their story, their journey, how they are feeling, their emotions, the vulnerabilities that they might feel, the fears and anxieties that they might grapple with. And within that, it's recognising that for many people, their faith is sometimes that bedrock that gives them strength and hope in times that often seem very bleak and difficult. And therefore it's supporting them in their faith. As a chaplain, I come with no agenda as to what I wish to speak about. I'm entirely led by the person I am speaking to. And so if a patient or someone I'm encountering would like specific religious support, then it's providing that support or referring to colleagues who might be able to assist. If it is providing resources such as, for example, scriptures, a Bible, a Quran, a Gurkha Sahib, it's providing those resources because those can be deeply soothing and comforting to a person, but also those are sometimes sacred texts for people who have a deeply faithful life or a spiritual life. As a part of their practice, they may have daily prayers. The idea of comfort of being close to their scripture may be one of the things that helps them through that journey. Or we could, even if it is things like rosaries or what we could describe as Quran cubes, players that play religious scripture or hymns, those things can be provided by our services so that when we're not there, the patients can continue to utilise those resources as part of the support. And alongside that, it's recognising that there are religious rites and practices that sometimes people might want, whether it's a Catholic who wants the sacrament of the sick, or it's specific prayers from a faith tradition. As a chaplaincy service, we work towards enabling that support to take place. So one of the great joys of being a chaplain is that you are a chaplain to all people, and in my journey, having supported many different patients through their cancer journey, some going on to remission, going on with their lives, and some unfortunately passing away. One of the things I remember experiencing was being with a patient who was not a Sikh, and my initial conversation was simply to see how they were and just be alongside them and hear from them. As part of being a chaplain, it was to understand their story, and as part of my spiritual assessment was to identify, are there any particular needs that this person might need. One of the things that I would say was deeply moving was, where a person is of a different faith, it's, as a chaplain, I'm not coming to them just as a Sikh. That's a part of who I am, but I'm encountering them as a chaplain to give honour and respect to their faith and belief. And I think the initial conversation being such a grounded, open, honest, sacred space for open dialogue, it didn't really matter in that moment that I wasn't of their faith. But through that journey, it was identifying where there might be the need for specific religious requirements or needs, and for that individual, it was particularly the sacrament of the sick, and that was the need that was provided in communion, and those were things that I then facilitated. But as part of that journey, it was meeting people as human beings who are precious, sacred individuals who are going through a difficult time, particularly grappling with the existential questions around end of life, and actually sometimes just hurting because they are struggling with where they are and where life has brought them. One of the patients that I visited earlier this week is unfortunately palliative, so approaching the end of life, having gone through a journey of cancer. And he himself has been the carer of his sister, who unfortunately has passed away also not long ago. And being alongside him was to come and just sit and listen and open that space to recognise what he might be going through in these moments, knowing that the person that he's spent a huge part of his life caring for has passed away. But also hearing a bit about their relationship, how he in this moment is unable to do anything for his sister, for her last rites, for her funeral service, and being alongside him as a chaplain to support him in that conversation. But also I think there's a deep sense of humanity that I found in that conversation. Someone who is, I would say, accepting that he doesn't have long to live, accepting that there isn't very much that he can do, that he himself is in a vulnerable space. But in those moments he reached out and held my hand, and we sat and we talked, and we were together just in that moment of, in this moment there's nothing I can do for you physically. I can't change where you are heading, I can't change your diagnosis, I can't change necessarily the package of care that's being put in place for you. But what I can do in this moment is show you the deep human compassion that every person deserves, to hear you, but also to hear from you what it is that you think and understand that your sister would have wanted in her last rites as a part of her funeral service, but also how we might be of support to him in the few days that he has left in hospital before he'll be moved on towards palliative care and the pathway that he is on. But it was an honest conversation, it was an open space where he talked about the fact that in life he had made some decisions by which he now doesn't have many friends or social networks around him, that there is a sense of loneliness, there is a sense of isolation, but also a great sense of appreciation for the life that he has lived, the relationship that he has had with his sister. And one of the things he said, he goes, I would love for it to be said at her funeral service that she was very brave and she fought throughout her life with all the illnesses that she had. And he goes, that's all I want to be said, that she was really brave. And in those moments, as a chaplain, sharing a space with someone who isn't of the same faith or belief, it was creating that honest, open space by which he could open up and say whatever it was in his heart, and entrust that to me, knowing that I would take that and respond according to his wishes. The key things in cancer and faith are creating a space where a person is able to express their whole identity and be supported in their whole identity. And that includes their religion, their belief, or whether they hold a non-religious belief. It's honouring that person in those moments as they battle through cancer, and whether the outcome is positive, remission and going on with your life, or whether it is approaching end of life and death. In all of those spheres, recognising what faith means to people is incredibly important. And in that, it's often sometimes the deep questions in life, the existential questions that I've experienced from many patients about why is this happening to me? Questions that I have no answer to, but can give space to people to open up and express, but also for people within their own faith and belief contexts to grapple and understand with, well, what does our faith teach around illness, ill health, death and dying and suffering, and what that might mean to them. It's giving space to a person so that they might grapple with these questions in a supportive and sensitive and non-directive way. Also, for many people, faith is a bedrock. It's one of the places of sanctuary and hope that they find great strength, whether it's the strength to face chemotherapy and the ill health and challenges that goes through those very, very difficult treatments, whether it is the hope that gets them up through different infections that might come through. It's the things that helps them up each day when they're feeling exhausted, when they're feeling vulnerable. It could be the things that a family, because often a cancer diagnosis is not just an individual who's affected, there's a whole family and sometimes even a whole community that is alongside that person affected. And faith, for many people, will be a coalescing feature of that journey. It's something that brings people together. And I've had moments of prayer with families who in that moment, without all the trauma and struggle that they've been going through, just find a moment of peace, a sense of tranquility and stillness in all of the hustle and bustle of a busy acute ward in a hospital. It's those precious moments that you create. It's those words of prayer in which you can speak the words of your heart. And I will say this to patients, that often prayer are the words of your heart given to the expression. And therefore, families will often say the most deepest, most beautiful prayers in those moments because it's so heartfelt. It's given honour to that. And also for those who are in their own religious traditions have rites and practices that give them peace of mind, to know that this particular religious rite of mine was concluded for people whose immortal soul, it's a question around something that transcends this life, that's immensely valuable, if not priceless. It gives them surety that those things will be honoured and responded to. These are elements that I think that faith, particularly in the journey of cancer, can be hugely important. In my journey, a young lady I supported for many years as she battled cancer in and out of the hospital, having remission and then coming back and then going through another round. One of the great defining features that I remember her mentioning was the great sense of comfort that she received having time to speak with me, to have time in prayer, to be together as a family, to ask some of the very tough questions, to grapple with the great emotional challenges, all of the what-if questions, many of which that I have no answers to. But it was honouring and giving space to that so that she could explore those questions. She could have that time away. She could have those moments of peace throughout her journey. And actually even beyond, it's recognising that as families lose loved ones in their cancer journey, those families will have anniversaries, they will have memories, they will have times of remembrance. And in those moments, often a person's faith is one of the ways in which a person might express that grief. Faith itself, many religious traditions give language to pain and suffering, to the human narrative. And these are the things that I think are hugely important, particularly from a spiritual perspective, because spirituality, as I would understand it, is that which gives life meaning and purpose. And faith helps you understand what meaning might be, what meaning we might find through a cancer journey, through ill health, through suffering, but also through recovery and new life, and what that new life might look like. And I think that's again another way in which faith can be a huge part of people's journey. And as a chaplain, it's a great privilege to be a part of that service in a small way, working alongside so many of the professions that are caring for that patient. It's adding that unique dimension that might just improve that quality of care that was experienced by a person throughout their journey. And I think that is the small gift that we have as a chaplaincy service to the great gift that is a person's faith during their journey in cancer. At the University Hospitals of Leicester, our chaplaincy team works with a lot of the other clinical services within the cancer wards. Quite often we can be alongside patients when they are receiving difficult news, to be a supportive and compassionate presence alongside them. We can be there to support them throughout their journey, whether that is offering a supportive listening ear, whether that is time in reflection, a space to grapple with difficult, deep questions, or time in prayer, for rituals, for religious practices, honouring all of those things as a part of someone's cancer journey. But also, alongside that, we can provide resources to individuals. We can provide people with particular religious rights, or where we don't have that in the team, access them through the community so that a person's religious needs are provided for. And also, we provide a 24/7 on-call service within the hospital. So if someone is in the hospital and they take a turn for the worse, it becomes critical or emergent or end of life, there's always a chaplain available to respond and support that family.